You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
For now, anyway, we're your hosts for this show. Unless, look, you guys have to understand, that's what happened to us last Friday. I know your power went out because of an ice storm, and now we're right in the middle of, like, this blizzard that's dumping a couple inches an hour, so, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
We're gonna try to hang on for you guys tonight, you know, do this show for you, but it is live, so, I mean, if something happens to one or both of us, you guys have been warned. But we're doing a twofer today because we just got really behind on this stuff. And yes, before you guys say anything, we are fully aware that the first episode of Season 3 of The Mandalorian did drop. And did you see it yet?
Yes, I did.
And I did too. That was another thing I did today. I watched that finally. So we're going to try to figure out how we're going to handle this. What we're probably going to do is next Friday, we'll start actually reviewing The Mandalorian live, and then we'll probably, because I think they might be on a mid-season break on The Bad Batch. I don't know. I know that we're up to episode 11 now. We're doing 8 and 9 today. The next show where we do The Bad Batch will be 10 and 11. I don't know if it's a mid-season break, which would make sense because it would give time for The Mandalorian to do its run.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if anybody knows, you guys can let us know. But yeah, these two episodes, it's kind of funny. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how you feel about this. But for me, the first one, Truth and Consequences, you know, that's, once again, exactly the kind of Clone Wars, or not Clone Wars, Bad Batch. I got to stop doing that. It's the kind of Bad Batch episodes that I really love. You know, this is showing us a lot of the politics, a lot of the effects of what's happening since the Empire took over, the whole Stormtrooper, what do they call it?
Basically.
Yeah, they call it like the Stormtrooper. It's not objective. It's something like that. It's a legal term. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I can't think of this. But whatever, like, thing. Right, like you said, we'll go with that. We'll go with Switch. It's the Stormtrooper thing. And essentially, the cool part is that, again, it's dealing with a lot of that, not just the politics, but the effects, like how it's affecting the clones, how it's affecting certain senators. You're seeing the government slowly unraveling a little bit, right? It's less and less of that democracy. It's almost ceremonial at this point, or at least getting there. We're approaching that. And then when you look at the crossing, now again, unlike, I don't remember the name of the episode, but the one where they had to go and do the whole pod racing thing to help Sid, and I thought that had a little bit of meat, but I remember that was one that you really weren't too particularly keen on because it was totally a filler episode. The crossing was kind of the same way. I mean, it wasn't as much because it was a fun adventure, and it did deal with Echo leaving the group and how Omega was, you know, handling that. But that's, at least from what I'm thinking, that's more or less where I'm standing with those two episodes. You know, a lot of meat, a lot of the stuff I love to see in episode 8, and then which was Truth and Consequences, and then of course episode 9, which is a crossing. It was it was adventure, it had some humor. It advanced the story a little bit, but it was maybe leaned a little to the right of filler. I don't know. What were your thoughts on it?
With the crossing, I mean, that was to me, I felt that was more character development. I think that was very character driven. That particular episode, you had Omega dealing with, you know, Echo not being in the group and the effect and the toll that it's taken on her. And, you know, sometimes, you know, you've kind of forget because she's so integrated with the team now. In some ways, you kind of forget that she's still a kid, and so she's not used to handling loss. You're right. You know, they already lost Crosshair, and now they lost Echo, and so she was more, and Echo was kind of like the one who would deal with her more, in a sense of
Right.
being more the compassionate one, outside of Record. Record was like the big fun uncle, and he was like, yeah, let's do this or whatever. But like Echo was kind of like more the in between of Hunter and Tech. He's kind of like in the middle. And so for her to lose that was like a great loss for her. And then there was also a lot of character development for Tech because he's so analytical and he just thinks about, black and white, ones and zeros pretty much. It caused him to be in a situation where he had to think emotionally and actually have some emotional intelligence to deal with Omega where she was, recognizing that she's still a child, and that she has legitimate feelings, and she's opening and sharing them, and he really didn't know what to do with it. So as luck would have it, those two kind of being pitted together in their own little sub adventure in a way, was really cool. So I thought that was a lot of character development on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's almost like the flip side of world building. They're kind of the same thing, right? Where world building, you're developing the environment and the it's like, I guess, the overall
the tone.
Yeah, tone. A lot of the other stuff. Maybe you're dealing with new planets or new cultures or whatever. Whereas this is a little bit of a microcosm of that. It's a little bit more personal. You're dealing more with the closer characters, which was good. And yeah, that's why I say, I mean, I think part of it is that it followed up Truth and Consequences. There was a stark contrast. But I did find myself, like I said, it's just kind of just to the right of, I mean, it's not a filler episode by any stretch, but it's, like you said, a little bit more personal. It's a little bit more character development. It's not so much the overall story arc as much as it is, hey, let's get inside of these characters a little more. Like you said, I mean, that was actually one of the things that I really loved, was the fact that you had Omega. And again, this is really, if you look at the two episodes side by side, Palpatine is sort of, I guess, looming over, Truth and Consequences, right? Because he's pulling the strings. I mean, from the very beginning that no matter which way this lands, whether the stormtrooper legislation, let's call it that. I wish I could remember it's almost like objective. Initiative, that's the word. Thank you. Jeez.
No problem.
Guess I'm going to have to buy a thesaurus on the show. It's like, oh my goodness.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. See, this is why I don't like to do these things on my own. This is why I didn't do it on my own last week. I could have. So much so that I remember Monday, you're like, hey, how'd it go? And I'm like, uh-oh, did I miss something?
Oh, yeah.
He had me worried there for a second. I'm like, what did I forget now? But no, fortunately, I only forgot the word initiative. So, the Stormtrooper initiative, you knew no matter which way that vote went, Palpatine was right there pulling the strings, and he had a contingency plan no matter what was happening. So his presence was definitely looming over that episode. Whereas, really, I mean, you could have gone either way. You could have gone Omega or Tech, because I agree. I think it really was contrasting Omega dealing with loss, and, yes, she's an equal member of the team, but you do forget that she's a kid sometimes. I mean, even in Truth and Consequences, she's like, oh, Coruscant, what's that? What's so special? And they're like, oh, it's the Imperial capital world, and on and on. You'd sometimes forget, like, oh, yeah, she wouldn't know what that is. And in The Crossing, same thing, right? I mean, you have a situation to where she's dealing with loss for the first time. I mean, not loss in the sense of death, but in the sense of we're not going to be this happy, close-knit team forever, right?
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, you got Tech, who wants to comfort her and wants to say the right thing, usually ends up only making it worse, and
Mm-hmm.
realizes that it's like, look, I'm not really built for this emotion thing, and him learning that, that's part of taking responsibility. And I think you're right, is that really it was more so Echo and Hunter and a little bit Tech. Tech was more like the teacher. He was more like the academic teacher for Omega.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Echo and Hunter were the ones that sort of played the parental figures in this whole thing.
Yeah, they'll
And,
kind of teach her the world and how things, would go. Like, here's there's the academic part, like you said, with tech, as far as, learning how to hook up things, how to fix things, how to,
yeah, how a ship
you know,
works, how, this thing happens.
yeah.
Oh, there's this animal, here's what it is, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, but then like you got Hunter and Echo, they're more like worldly. They're just kind of trying to expose her to, like, this is how the world works. You have to vote, you have senators, you have this, you know, that's kind of what. Then of course Wrecker is the fun one. He's just the fun uncle, that's just like, all right, let's grab some food and have some fun,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because this is all wrapped around a really cool adventure story, actually. I mean, even if you didn't have a lot of this character development, not everything can be weighty and meaty and all that stuff. You do have to occasionally. I mean, Star Wars is about fun adventure stories. After all, it's a Saturday matinee kind of thing. And this one, I thought was good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with TV shows or series and things like that. Like, of course we want to just see the main story, keep unraveling because we're invested in that, right? But it's kind of like music, where, especially like classical music, where it takes you into different valleys and peaks and different movements throughout the song that makes it complete,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're used to a certain cadence or a certain beat that's hitting all the time, it's like, okay, yeah, it's cool, but that's why those songs are so short. It's because, it's very, succinct or compact. But when you have something like classical, which Star Wars is, it's a classic story tale. But now you have all these peaks, rises, and valleys, and, you know, changes throughout the thing, which keeps you on your toes, what makes it interesting. And so they did that very well with this particular episode. The Crossing is to which I'm referring. But even in that episode, the Marauder. First of all, I love the name for that
Yeah, I
ship. I
know.
mean, it's sweet.
I kind of like the names that have been given. Like all of Filoni's stuff, he's got
Hmm.
really cool ship names.
Yeah. So you
You got,
got the Marauder, and that was like Shanghaied basically, by some kid,
I know
and
that
that,
just,
and I was just like, man, I kind of didn't want to think. I hope nothing happens to it because I really do. It's almost like the Falcon. Like, you kind of realize like that's their ship,
well,
and
yeah, but I mean, was that always, I'm trying to remember, was that a ship that they got early on? Because, and you have to go
hmm
back to Clone Wars Season 7. Was that there too? Because if you
I'm
think
not
about it,
entirely sure.
that's the thing. They're kind of like a rag. I mean, yes, we all got the same vibe from it, right? That's kind of their Falcon or their Ghost or something like
Hmm.
that. But at the same time, I applaud Filoni for actually serving the story. And, sometimes cars get stolen. Just because you're
Yeah.
super attached to it doesn't mean that was one of the things that, again, it was fan servicey and, my heart melted like everybody else's. But when the Falcon was found in the junkyard in The Force Awakens, and then it miraculously starts after not, it's just a way of
Hmm.
reuniting Solo and Chewbacca with the Falcon, so we get the warm and fuzzies. But
Sure, like seeing Luke's X-wing in the bottom of the ocean.
exactly,
It's like when we
exactly.
saw that, it's like, man, it's the X-wing.
And I mean, on one hand, you could say, well, look, man, I mean, this is what this series is designed to do, make you feel good and cheer and all that stuff. It's not a documentary. We can have Solo
Right.
reunite with the Falcon. We can have Luke in his X-Wing. But at the same time, again, I do applaud Filoni for doing something a little different.
Well, yeah, I mean, and once again, it gives you that a different type of peril because each of those ships, the Ghost, the Falcon, the Marauder, Luke's X-Wing, you know, they're vehicles, but in a sense, they're almost like a person because of our attachment to, because of the people that they're attached to, because they're so invested in it, we become invested in. So like we know Han loves the Falcon. He's always like, hey, be careful with her now, or
Mm-hmm.
hey, who screwed with this, who did this, and so it's kind of like, and just the way Han will like touch, the Falcon, even when Luke did it in, Rise of Skywalker, to see him back in the Falcon was just
Oh, I
like,
know, that was crazy. And
whoa.
that's what it's for. But
You know what I'm
you are
saying?
right. I
Like,
do. Because in a way, these ships almost become characters. They're every
mhm.
bit as much of a character as any of the other ones. What was Din Djarin's ship called? Not the Naboo fighter that he's got now, but that's kind of my point, actually. It's beginning with an E. I don't know. I should know this.
yeah, I
I
had it
mean,
too.
I know.
I mean, not the actual ship, but the name.
It's
um,
like, really? Bring it to work one day,
yes,
maybe?
it's in the backyard. I grab it.
It's exactly. Man, you know what? And it's not like they haven't mentioned it a half a dozen times too. But that was another choice. They
Razor
chose
Crest.
Razor Crest. That's it. I was gonna say, it's even sadder because we actually have access. Like we can at any point punch it on our computers, phones, or whatever, finding this. But that's part of the fun. That's actually part of the
Right.
fun. Look, we're real. Nothing drives me more insane than these YouTube guys that are almost trying to present themselves as the authority, like they work for Lucasfilm or something. It's like, look, we're all fans. Just get over it. But yes, the Razor Crest. So again, it was another Favreau Filoni show where it was, hey, let's have him lose that ship and give him another one. And now, we're cool with it. And I think in the case of the Bad Batch, it's a similar thing because I don't necessarily think that it's gonna be like the X-Wing and the Falcon were, because those are almost iconic. I mean, they've been around for decades. We've
Mhm.
lived with those ships. So I think that
Absolutely.
even Slave One, which they call
Hmm.
the new name of that one, which actually it doesn't bother me. I remember when they changed the name of it, and I was kind of like, all right, like the Fire Spray or something, I think is what it's called now.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
yeah, look at that. Pulled that one out. And I did not look it up. Did not look that one up. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that, when a ship or something like that's been around forever, I think you get more attached to it. But you're right. That we looked at that as sort of like their safe space. It was their little headquarters. It was the place that they can go and just be safe, and they can talk things out, and they can plan, and they can plot or whatever. And now that's been taken away. And I'll tell you
Mhm.
this, because you probably felt the same. I mean, when that ship was gone and they're just watching it fly away, I was just sitting there in the back of my head going, well, now what do you do?
Exactly. Absolutely.
I mean, that's
This
not
is
like
like, all
having your
right, well,
car stolen. Like, I mean, that's that's pretty severe. You're trapped on this planet. It's not like they're familiar with it, really.
yeah, and it's not like a busy planet either. It's not like it's Coruscant or something where you could just
Right.
run over to the next little landing and say, "Hey, can you take me here?" Or do that. It's
Yeah,
like you're
called
in
the
this
Space Uber or
desolate
something.
space Uber. You got this whole desolate planet that you're like wondering about, and it's got all your stuff on it, your armaments, your food, your clothes. I mean, all the
Everything.
stuff.
Yeah,
And if
that'd
you
be
want to use
like
the
somebody
bathroom, you
taking
can
your
just run on that thing,
RV or something, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Or you're like a little tour bus or something. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like if your car's stolen, because if your car's stolen, you can, like you said, get a ride, and now you're back at your
Yeah.
house where all your stuff is, right?
Insurance will give you a rental or something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, you just can't.
Yeah, they don't have a
And it
State
was
Farm or something.
modified.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it's modified specifically for what they do too. So it's kind of like, even if they did, like, I mean, like, we have to see if they get it back or if it's, what happens to it. But um yeah, it's just like, okay, well, if you just jump in some other ship, with now it doesn't have the maneuverability that you're familiar with. It may not have the armaments that you need to do certain jobs. So that was a huge deal. And then the fact to see them kind of infighting with each other a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, like, hey, well, you lost a ship. Well, you need to go
Yeah,
fix
that's
this with
because
Omega, and
you got to
you
put
know,
real life in there somehow. You have to,
yeah,
because that's exactly what would
absolutely.
happen.
Yeah, so it's just like that's what made, the crossing episode, really cool. And it showed a lot of growth, like I said, with the characters in Omega and Tech.
Well, it also made him a little bit. I mean, we alluded to it, but it made him a little bit more real, I think, too. Like the way they handled that whole situation, and I'm talking not just when their ship got stolen, but I mean through the entire episode. I honestly felt like this was more real. Like this is real dialogue that would happen between people
Mhm.
in this situation. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other big thing is this. I noticed, is the growth of Omega, right? She had to kind of grow up, and she even got a little snippy with with
Mhm.
Tech when he was trying to direct her, and he was like, "Well, that's what I'm doing." He's like, "You do realize that, one false move or one could blow this whole thing up." And she's like, "Well, I suggest that you just," I was just like, "All right, Omega."
Yeah, well, and again, once again, I had to point this out. That's a real right because here's the thing. They taught her how to do it, and she's been doing it
Hmm.
like through the entire episode. Right? I mean, just flawlessly, no mistakes. And again, you can understand the clones because they're like, okay, I just feel like I probably should mention that this is like a miniature nuclear bomb. And, it's almost like how when people, and this is apropos given the weather here in Michigan today, but, when you say, okay, well, I'm going to take off, and they say, okay, drive carefully, like, you're really thinking in your head, I was actually going to drive really recklessly, but now that you said that, I'm going to take that into consideration. It's just something that people just feel the need to say even though it's obvious.
Yeah, but I think also just because she's a kid still, so like you still feel like, okay, you're not some seasoned professional, you're still a child. We've taught you how to do this. But don't start going around acting like, yeah, I've been doing this for like 20 years or something like that. Like,
Well, there is that too. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think it's one of those things of, hey, listen, you're doing that absolutely correctly and that's cool, but keep the focus, keep pretending like this is still your first time and you're learning. Don't get overconfident and think, "Oh yeah, I
Hmm.
got this," and then pretty soon everybody's blown up. Because I mean, the stakes. I mean, honestly, when I was watching that episode, I'm sitting there thinking in my head, like, why aren't one of you guys doing this? I mean, I get letting her do a couple, but I mean, granted, yeah, she
Well,
did sneak away and do that, but I'm thinking maybe.
well, not only that, but she's the only one who could fit, though. That was the thing.
Well, all right,
It
there.
was her size that
Yes,
was
at
like,
that point, but not in the beginning when she was, you know,
yeah, I think it was the same situation, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. I
But
mean, I'm not talking Wrecker here,
well, I mean,
and
yeah, I mean, it's not
you know,
like this huge behemoth, trying to do it. But
yeah, and
I
I'm,
mean, like even Hunter, like when they were trying to climb up the stuff, it was just and read certain things. I'm like, okay, well, Omega, you can kind of fit into there and get what we need. So yeah, you go do it. But the other one, the Palpatine episode, we could talk about that a little bit.
well, we probably should. It's true.
Him coming out of
We've been focused a little on the crossing a little bit too much here. Yeah, we should swing it back to truth and consequences.
yeah, and truth of consequences, like I don't know, that moment when Palpatine came up
Oh
into
man,
the
yeah,
and
you heard that like or whatever. At first I was like, what?
yeah.
Because at first I
Yeah, I was
thought I
like,
was hearing something from outside. I'm dead serious. I'm like, what is that? And then, he's coming up from the floor. I mean, yeah, you
and then
talk
the
about an
music and
entrance,
just
man. I know.
and it was just and you heard that choir, oh, like that. It's almost like a gothic, choir singing, and it's just like it gives you those little chills. Like, man,
It's because you never see him. And I think that
yeah,
that was
and
one of the things. That's the impact of never seeing him. And okay, now you got to bring out the big guns because obviously, I guess that was supposed to be Masamita.
hmm
So it's like, well, all right, he's obviously not able to take care of it. So now Palpatine has to himself appear and put that spin on it. And you got that sense of, ooh, we're seeing Palpatine. Like, this is not a usual thing.
well, I think it was one of those situations too where it was like, because everybody uh
Oh man, we're doing so
Organa,
good.
since
We're doing
I
so
know
good
Senator
tonight.
Organa, right? When he popped up and he was just like, because he asked a viable question, like, what does the Emperor say about all this? Because it's like, he doesn't come to the chambers, so it was just kind of like, and everybody, oh well, I assure you. So then, like, it was a deal for them for him to show up, and I think he showed up more so to further perpetuate that whole "I'm with you."
Mm-hmm.
Because the longer people don't see you, it's kind of like, okay, well, what do you? Because at this point, the Senate hasn't been dissolved yet, obviously. So you still have this government that's kind of like, okay, we're looking to our leader about this critical matter. Where is he? And so I think Palpatine had to show up just to kind of refocus everybody. Like, yeah, I'm with you. Yes, he's screwed up. Yes, and he should be dealt with. And to kind of to make once again, his whole plan is to have people trust in his policies and what he's doing, that he's doing it for a benevolent reason, and he's doing it for the people. And he needed to show himself again to reinforce that, and that he's not ignorant to what's going on,
Oh, and he
that
did
he's
that
well
so
informed. And
brilliantly
he's
too, man. What
man,
a
oh my
spin!
yeah.
I was
Yeah, and then
convinced.
yeah, and that's the magic of Palpatine, right? And then on top of that, he, you know, when they tried to flee, he's like, "This is even more of a reason why we should have this because
Oh
of."
yeah, dude, I was right there going, yes, we need stormtroopers, and I know, I mean, I know, but it's such a compelling argument, and here's the other thing too that I thought was really cool. It was really interesting to me to see Emperor Palpatine now interact with the
Mhm.
Senate versus
Sure, yeah.
Chancellor or Supreme Chancellor. You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
this is the first time, okay, he's full blown Emperor, Sith Lord, training Vader, doing all this stuff, all these atrocities everywhere. But now he's interacting with the Senate, which is somewhat of the original trilogy meeting the prequels again. It's a weird
Yeah.
thing,
It's a weird dichotomy, but the thing is, it gives credence and it makes you think about um the original trilogy, like you said, because when Tarkin delivers that line, like, well, um, the last remnants of the Imperial Senate have been swept away. You know, it's kind of like you see how like Palpatine just phases people, and I wanted to see. I hope we really get a chance to see how they begin to get phased out,
Well, I
because of course
think,
you don't see as many people. Because remember when we first saw when they were still the Republic, that place was full to the brim.
oh yeah.
With people. Now it's like maybe half of that.
Well, and we said that even in season 1 because I think they showed a little bit of a Senate thing in season 1. And I remember that was one of the stark contrasts of this whole thing was you could tell this is a little bit more ceremonial. Oh, you know what it was? It wasn't season 1. It was Andor. It was in Andor, and they showed a Senate scene, and there was like, because Mon Mothma was like talking about something. There was like nobody. Now, of course, that's even closer. And so what's cool is, if you look at season 1, I think there's a Senate scene in the Bad Batch in season 1. Definitely here, though. Okay, you see there's less people than what we saw in the prequels. Then when it gets to the time of Andor, which is 7, 8 years later, something like that. Okay, now there's even less people. It's almost like there really wasn't a whole lot to sweep away.
Yeah. And then you still had the comment from Mom Mothma's daughter. It's like, well, you going to those meetings are kind of like pointless. Like, for what? Like, there's no one there. Like, what's and that just kind of, once again, you're starting to see progressively how things are starting to disappear, and now it's becoming a dictatorship as opposed to a democratic society.
Well, what I found compelling about the whole thing is, you think of the analogy of, putting a lobster or something boiling, or a frog, or whatever they decide to use, and you just slowly turn up the heat. Frog won't move because
he doesn't recognize the temperature.
No, he doesn't understand what's happening. All he's feeling is incremental changes, and by the time it gets to the point to where it can hurt him, too late. He's paralyzed. And that's sort of what's happening with the Senate here, is that they're in that slow heating, boiling water, but they don't see anything. To them, it's incrementally still looking the same. You might get it's getting a little warmer in here, but they're not thinking anything of it because they're so concerned with just doing their job and keeping the bureaucracy. And the other thing that I like, too, that I want to get a little bit from you on, I really thought it was cool when Senator Chuchi, so I got her name right, I've been working on this, guys, when basically how she's fighting for clone rights. I mean, that's just something that really, when you stop and think about it, because we had always said, even after the prequel trilogies were done, and it's kind of like, okay, well, that's great, but kind of wonder what happens to all the clones, because we don't see them in episode 4. So, gotta wonder what happens to them. And this is the beginning of that. This is that, you don't even think about it, right? You got all these guys that were bred for war and bred for all this, and if they're being phased out, I mean, I was always under the impression, and maybe that's what happens eventually, is Palpatine just Order 66'd them. Maybe that's Order 67. I don't know. But, I know they retconned Rex to be that one dude in Return of the Jedi, even though, that's, again, that was just, it's a fan service thing. Yeah, okay, we'll make that guy Rex. So, canonically, anyway, Rex ends up making it. So, that some of the clones probably just went and, did, was it Terminator Genesis, where the T-800 or whatever was like Carl, and he was like living in the woods, and it was the last Terminator movie, and they're visiting him, and you're just kind of like, I'm a Terminator, but screw it. I just figured, I'm here. I'll just live a normal life. He got married. I mean, it's... And you figure that's what the clones did, too,
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You eventually have to wonder, like, okay, what happens to them? Is there a buyout plan or something that, it's like, okay, look, we'll give you like some land. We'll give you guys can go over here and just retire. Almost like, unfortunately what they did to the Native Americans. It's kind of like, all right, we're just going to move you guys to the settlement over here. You got, and just put them on reservations, or just move them to a planet where it's like, all right, we'll dump you guys over here. You guys, it's got some vegetation. You guys can build your own little whatever. We throw some women in there so you can procreate, and that'll be that. You
guys, and it's governed by their their little local government or whatever. And yeah, exactly, that could be clone reservations.
Yeah, basically. And it's just like, all right, the Empire thanks you for your service, and off you go. And but like I said, I think the reality of it is more so like, no, Palpatine had them all, slaughtered at some point, or maybe even at least a good portion of them.
I would think so, only because, and again,
They know too much too.
that's my point. They know too much, and it's not even so much their knowledge; it's the fact that he couldn't take a chance on them joining the rebellion. Because remember, the rebellion, it's not super known right now, but even during the Bad Batch, they had pockets of resistance. It just wasn't a formal rebellion. But I mean, it had to have occurred to Palpatine. Like, look, if these guys ever wanted to unite, they could be a powerful fighting force under somebody's leadership. So, I mean, that could have, you'd have to wipe them out just to ensure that
there's no opposition.
Right. I mean, granted, Vader probably could have wiped them all out, but you don't want to take that chance. So, I mean, I thought that was pretty cool that they, and again, it was a continuation of the previous episode, which of course we did review. I was going to say last week, but it was actually 2 weeks ago. And that's the part that I really like about this. Again, there was something to like really about both of these episodes because they both delved into different aspects. The Truth and Consequences episode delved into the overall story arc, whereas The Crossing delved more into personal story arc. And that part I thought was really cool because you had Rex, of course, meeting them on Coruscant. And the part that we didn't really talk about for Truth and Consequences yet was that whole little mission to get into Admiral Hatch. I think that was... Pretty sure that was his name. Oh, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm worse than usual at this. It's like, really, dude? You're hosting
It's been a long...
It's like,
a long week, man.
Right? It's like, are you actually a fan, or are you aware of Star Wars at all? But I'm pretty sure that's his name. But they had to infiltrate his ship in order to get the proof that he ordered and participated in.
Oh, Admiral Rampart.
Rampart. Where'd I get Hatch from? Well, they had to blow a hatch. We'll go with that. Rampart,
Yeah.
Yes.
Rampart, yeah.
Admiral Rampart. And he's the guy that ends up, of course, taking the fall for the whole thing. Because, and again, they, kept saying, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be Masameda, but there was actually two guys that were part of Palpatine's really close-knit thing throughout the entire prequels and stuff. But
yeah, Rampart tried to snitch at the very end, like when they dimed him out.
Oh yeah, I was just following orders.
Well, I was following orders. Like, you guys you the ones who told me to do this.
Exactly.
It kind of reminded me of A Few Good Men, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, people follow orders or people die. It's kind of one of those types of things.
It could have been like a Dawson moment where he goes, what we should have done was we should have fought for the people, those who can't help themselves or whatever. But again, that was a brilliant move, but I really thought that whole infiltration of that ship was incredible. Like, that was a really cool little sort of mini mission within this episode. And that's why I say that overall, even though I immensely enjoyed both of them, I would say that I would give the edge to Truth and Consequences because it had every element that makes The Bad Batch an amazing show. You had
and they had more weight to it.
More weight. It had a larger, greater story arc because it was part of the overall seasonal story arc, not just contained into this episode. And then at the same time, you did have a little bit of a mini fun kind of Saturday matinee type adventure. You had some of the political intrigue and a little bit more of a cerebral type of a thing going.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a political thriller too. So I mean, I thought just overall, man, that entire episode was really, really good.
It was well constructed.
That too,
Absolutely.
the pacing, I mean,
yeah, the story, the way, the comedy that was in there, it had all the elements to making something really, really good. And yeah, the construction of the episode was really top notch, and I definitely concur with that one.
But The Crossing, though, on the flip side, the pacing of that story was really good, and I actually felt, I felt the way the characters should have felt in the episode. I felt stranded. I felt how are these guys going to get out of this? That somewhat uneasy feeling, because at first they're just kind of okay, whatever, we'll just do what we always do kind of thing, but they're actually going to have issues here. Their situation just seemed more and more dire, and I'll never forget the feeling I had when I first saw this, and I watched their ship fly off, and basically watching them watch their ship fly off, feeling that same pit in my stomach, that sense of dread, like, wow. And it's great when an episode does that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you definitely feel the sense of loss. Like, man, what are they going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I felt and normally I don't even feel this, but like, I kind of felt sad for Omega because, she was really close to Echo, and she doesn't understand, like, why did he have to leave us? Like,
yeah,
what happened? Like, and I can understand, it's almost like a kid who has to watch his dad, all right, he's got him to go on another tour in the military, and he's got to leave him. And it's like, well, why does he have to go? Why does he? And it's like, well, this is just what he has to do. But why? Why? Why couldn't he just stay here? And
why can't it be somebody else's
questions.
father? Why does it have to be mine? And it's hard to explain to a kid, like, well, look, dude, it's got to be somebody's. I mean,
right.
you just...
This is what he signed up for,
You drew the short straw. This is all you got to take the good with the bad, and that's true with anybody's parent. But, yes, that's a really good comparison, because that is what it's like. It's not like he died, but in a way, she's still having to deal with loss, though. Just a different kind of loss.
Felt with it. It felt like a death to her. It was like in a way. So,
well, I think you have a point, though. I think the main point is when you compared it to Crosshair, right? She already lost Crosshair, and now Echo's going. And so this once stable family isn't feeling so stable anymore. And I think she's not only dealing with the loss of having these two people leave the group, but now she's, probably dealing with some fear. Like, well, what? Now we're down to what, 3 or 4 or whatever. I mean, it's that's got to be weighing on her mind. She's down to like Hunter, Tech, and Wrecker.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and this is a bunch of things you just don't understand as a kid, and people have to make decisions and find their own way. But like I said, I thought it was also warming too, just watching Tech have to try to struggle to figure out.
That
like,
was
okay,
the
how
funniest thing. That was the Mr. Mom moment type of thing, It was,
like, how do I relate to this kid, and how do I be there for her? Because everybody's looking at me like, well, you gotta go do something. We figure this out up here. You go deal with her, and it's like, and that's a funny time just to see Tech in that, because normally he's up for anything. He's like, okay, sure, I'll do that, no problem. And then you ask him to do this, he's like, okay.
Well, that's what's so amazing, right? Just like a couple episodes ago, it's like, yeah, flying this pod race that's going to decide the whole future of Sid. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yep, and he's confident, and you're like, oh, yeah. I
yeah, because as long as he can solve the problem with logic and academics and various techniques that he would employ that he knows are going to work and are repeatable and all that, he's down with it. But when it comes to something like anything emotional is
Matters of the heart.
uncertain. Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
really predict, at least with any amount of certainty, how somebody's going to really act. I mean, you could use context clues, what you know of the person, all that stuff, and
Passes. Yeah.
yeah, past experiences, or maybe just an overall, usually if you attack somebody's, self-esteem, they're probably going to react poorly. But specifically, though, you don't necessarily know how they're going to react, and sometimes they throw a curveball on you, and now you're like, well, great, I made the whole situation worse. Now what am I going to do? And I think that that's the stuff that Tech was wrestling with in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you had to like rate these episodes, how would you rate them?
And I am so tempted to give Truth and Consequences a 10. I'm like, I'm right there. I mean, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give Truth and Consequences a 10 because...
Trust your feelings.
I mean, it was a perfectly paced, constructed, written episode. It had, I mean, just even thinking about it, like you said, when they brought Bail Organa and he said a lot of the things he said. I mean, just the way that it flowed and it moved, I thought this right here is the perfect example. And I'm actually going to give the Crossing an 8.5 because
okay.
I really immensely enjoyed the episode. The only reason, and it's the only reason why I'm not grading it higher, I normally would actually. Normally I would put the Crossing at like a 9, 9.5. I need to deduct a half a point to a point because the adventure part of the story probably could have been a little bit better. I'll just go for a 9 because I did feel the overall, like I said before, when they were stranded, I felt stranded. I mean, anytime an episode can make you feel the way the characters feel, it deserves high praise. I'm actually going 9.5. I'm going 9.5 because of that reason. I mean, again, it probably, sure, people could probably point out in the comment section, like, oh, but, this episode from season 1 was technically, but you know what? It's not always about technical precision. It's not always about the objective.
That's what we learned from Tech.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey.
It's like South Park. I learned something today.
Yeah, I think I would, and no pun intended, I'll echo your thoughts, your ratings.
Well, technically, I know. We're here all night, folks. Well, it depends on the storm. Maybe not.
I know, right? But yeah, I think that overall, I think I agree with you. The Cross 8.5, it was a great adventure. It did what it was supposed to do, and I think that's what made it really good.
Yeah,
what it was designed for, it did it exactly. But Truth and Consequences, man, like I think just the weight, the scheme of it all, the cloak and dagger type stuff that was going on, like the pacing, like all of it, it hit all the feels and the beats, and the fact that you bring it in, Palpatine once again, and having those chills and having him like, okay, like he reminds you why we're here. You know what I mean?
And, yeah, I mean, when you break down his reasoning, it's like, wow, he's right.
Yeah. And it was cool because one of the things I like on occasion, because anybody who knows me, I generally root for the villain because I feel like the villain is more interesting than the heroes always. A lot of times.
Usually that's always the case.
Yeah. So I really like this one because the villain won this time. Like it didn't win the overall, but it's like this is the one time, but they couldn't overcome him, and I like that because it keeps that tension in the line where it's like, okay, we got to keep plugging away because we haven't made it yet, and I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the rating that you're giving Truth and Consequences?
Oh, I'm with you. 10.
10. Yeah, I mean, and again, I think that just to be clear, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way on this, we're reserving 10s for episodes that not only are outstanding episodes and hit all the right parts objectively, but also the episodes that represent this is what Star Wars is. This is what it should be and what it's all about. And I think that that's the reason both of us rated this as a 10, is because, yes, this is the barometer by which you should be measuring Star Wars films, television, whatever. All right. Well, then all that's left to do is tell you guys what's happening next week.
Yes, sir.
Monday, of course. Rogue One. We're actually doing Rogue One. It's part of our What is Star Wars. Last week we did Solo. You know, we've done the prequels, we've done the original trilogy. We actually did the first episode of the series was us talking about what Star Wars is and the legacy and everything that makes up the whole Star Wars vibe. Because that's an important thing that I think a lot of people don't understand, is that Lucas actually gave it a vibe. Not only did he have different influences as far as the construction of the storytelling, but he also somewhat gave it that, you know, Saturday afternoon matinee serial type vibe to it, which is echoed to the entire franchise. Well, if done right. And so we spent a lot of time in that first episode talking about that, and then we went straight into the films. And so Monday's going to be no exception. Next on the list is going to be Rogue One, where we're going to dissect it, delve into it. So you're not going to want to miss that. That'll be at 8 o'clock, of course. And then Friday, I don't know, I guess we'll probably do The Mandalorian. We'll probably hit The Bad Batch episodes 10 and 11 in a pre-record. I mean, we might as well. We've had, like, no chats tonight, so I don't think it's going to hurt if we do The Bad Batch in a pre-record, and then next Friday we'll pick it up with The Mandalorian. We'll probably end up having to just do episodes 1 and 2, or I should, what are they, chapters 17 and 18 or something at this point. You know, we'll just take the first 2 episodes of the season and do a big review on that. And then, of course, don't forget, hit that like button if you guys like the video. You know, it helps the channel out immensely. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, because we do come at you guys. Now it looks like it's going to be 3 times a week, because we got to do these What is Star Wars things. We got to sneak in some time for The Bad Batch and The Mandalorian. This is a good problem to have. I remember you said that last week.
Right.
That, you know, we got a lot of Star Wars content. That's not a bad thing. So until Monday, we'll guys see you. If you're anywhere in the Michigan area, you know, stay safe. Hopefully your power stays on. And before we go, I did want to point this out because this is really interesting. And I don't know if you've even seen this or not, but on Disney Plus, you know, they'll always have like, you know, just added and you know, original movies or whatever. When it comes to the Star Wars movies across the timeline, they actually have the chronological timeline to where you can watch like the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and they drop in the Clone Wars series. You know, then it goes Revenge of the Sith, then the Bad Batch. Like they literally have everything. You know, then like Solo, then Obi-Wan, then Andor, then Rogue One. I mean, and then New Hope. They literally go in basically in the not chronological as far as the release date of the films, but when they take place, the basic timeline, the Star Wars timeline. So if you guys want to follow along with us, at least where the films are concerned, we'll probably at some point go back and do the Clone Wars, but it'll probably be if there's like some dead spot, because that's like 22 episodes a season and 7 seasons. That's gonna be that'll be an undertaking.
Indeed.
So make sure you guys check that out. Again, we'll see you guys Monday at 8. With that, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.